I started off making 20,000 a year. Now I make 20,000 a month just off one business, the real estate. But now I'm like, hold on, I made 12. I made more than I made in the whole year in one day. I definitely got to share that with the world.
Peace, family. Will Roundtree here on the Full-Time CEO podcast, the shit they don't tell you, where I interview entrepreneurs, CEOs, moguls, legends, all that good stuff. But more importantly, today I have a very, very, very special guest. Of course, I always say all my guests are special, but this person is very special. Not only is she a good friend of mine, she's like a sister. She's a mother. She's an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. She's not just a business man, she's a business man. I mean, all that good stuff. I definitely don't want to steal her thunder, but the biggest thing that stood out to me when I first met this queen is that she went from being a single mother to building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. Now, some may say, what's the significance of that? Well, it's huge because over 47% of African Americans don't even own a home. So she went and utilized all of the excuses that most people utilize, but turned those into motivation. To be here with us today, she traveled all the way across the country to come and spend a few minutes with me and share her story with you on the Full-Time CEO podcast, the shit they don't tell you. I want to introduce my good friend, Ashley Hamilton. What's going on?
Hey, King. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. Wouldn't have done it for nobody else but you. No, I'm just joking. All I need is an excuse to come out of Vegas, I swear. But definitely did jump right on the flight, came out here. Once I heard you were dropping a podcast, I already knew I liked you. And I think I texted you like, hey, make sure you set me up. I don't care if it's a year from now, but I had to be on here. So I was super excited to be here.
No, I appreciate you. And like I mentioned, just with your story, phenomenal just as far as you being able to use adversity as motivation. And so we definitely going to get a chance to touch on that. But for those who may or may not know, Ashley, just talk about, who you are, where you came from, and why, just your story is so significant, not only just for women, but for people in general. Because I think everybody has an excuse that they can use as why they don't accomplish what it is they want to accomplish. So if you could just share that with me.
Yes, absolutely. And thanks for that. Yes, so my name is Ashley Hamilton, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, cold Detroit. Had a normal childhood, grew up very low income. My parents was on government assistance and things like that, but never really affected me because I was like stuck in a box. But once I got older and started seeing like the world and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, something ain't right here, right? So I basically had a normal childhood. I became a mother really early. At 17 years old, I had my daughter. But not only did I have my child at 17, she was premature. So she had to stay in the hospital for about 45 days. So at 17-year-old, that was pretty traumatic, right? So right then and there, I instantly started thinking like, I have to do something so that I can spend as much time with her when she gets out of the hospital. I didn't want to hand her over to a daycare center after she had went through all that. So the entrepreneurial, thoughts had already started kicking in, but I was still a minor at 17. So fast forward 2 years later at 19, I had a son as well. And then I was like, okay, now it's time, right? I'm responsible for 2 human beings. It's time to go. So I started exploring avenues on how to become financially free and end up hearing what is it, like when they do those meetups, it was like a workshop or whatever for Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
So I went there, never heard like any of the terms they were saying, mortgage, cash flow, none of that stuff. But what stood out was 2 quotes that the gentleman said. And one was Warren Buffett, was take a couple years of your life living how most people don't, so you can spend the rest of your life living how most people won't. And then the other quote was, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. So that's all I took away from that conference, literally went home and didn't think nothing else about it. Maybe like a week or 2 later, I started to see for sale signs everywhere, right? And at the same time, I'm on the news and they're like, don't buy in Detroit. Detroit is bankrupt. It's a war zone. You can get a house for $5,000 there. And I'm like, wait a second. At this time, I was 23 years old. I was working as a waitress at Red Lobster, making less than $20,000 a year, right?
Wow.
20,000. So that's like 1,200 a month, if that, right? And I had these 2 kids, and I'm a single mother, so I really wanted to change my life. So I picked up the phone and called one of those for sale signs, and the property was $6,300. And I didn't have the money, right? Because I'm only getting $1,000 a month, if that. But I knew that I was going to get a tax return, right? Everybody, February, March, everybody get their tax returns. So once I got my tax return, I literally took the whole entire tax return, purchased the house, and the rest was history.
Wow.
That's how it got started. And that was in 2009, my first property. But when you had said like, well, people make excuses and stuff like that. One thing about my journey, and even in the beginning, like I did it the right way, and I did not have any unfair advantages, right? So when I was listening to podcasts and even YouTube, you will hear people say, oh, I got $1 million portfolio or 100 doors. And then as soon as they start talking, they're like, oh, my dad loaned me 100,000, or I was working a 6-figure job, or my credit was just miraculously good, or I partnered with somebody, so it's always something like, dang, that's just something I can't do because, where I'm coming from a person with low financial education, no money, the city is bankrupt and all that stuff. So I'm like, I can't do those things. But I was able to execute with my tax return. So 2009, I set a goal to buy 10 properties. My goal was to buy 10 properties, one a year. And once I got 10, they would hopefully be worth $100,000. And then I would sell them all, be a millionaire, and just retire. That was the original plan, but it didn't go that way. But that's where I was at when I started.
No, powerful story. Now, people may or may not know this, and they may even think this is cap. I used to work at Red Lobster too.
Really? Everybody, Nicki Minaj, Damon John.
We all worked, but I was a dishwasher. I guess I wasn't powerful enough to be a server.
Right.
And so, but I remember we used to be in the back making the cheddar biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let's just say I don't eat at Red Lobster now because I saw what actually goes on in the kitchen. So,
yes.
But we can move past that. But no, I love that story because how I got into entrepreneurship was similar. It was around 2003. And I remember I actually got enrolled in network marketing. Mm. And it was like you say, it wasn't necessarily, I didn't understand anything that was going on. But what stood out to me was I saw young Black men dressed in suits, and they controlled the room. Right. That stood out to me. And then they talked about, just different things of like changing your mindset and, all of these different terminologies that we really didn't know what they meant back then. Right. But fast forward, like when somebody gives you advice, that advice may not necessarily be for you that day.
Right.
But as you go through life, as you go through journey, you start to think back and be like, damn, that was right, or he was right, or she was right, or whatever. And so now let's take it back a little bit with your story, Ashley. When you got in real estate or went to that event, was it intimidating? Because one of the things I know, just me being in a financial education space, one of the common things that I hear from people, even today, is that it's intimidating. Talking about money and you already know how it is with a lot of people in our communities. It's like taboo to talk about money. Mm-hmm. We'll brag on entertainers. We'll brag on how much Jay-Z made or whoever. But when it comes to us talking about money, finances, credit, real estate, it can be intimidating. Was it intimidating walking into those rooms?
Actually, it wasn't. I know it could have been, but my mentality, my mindset has always been, just because I was thrown into a world at a disadvantage and so much adversity that I was used to getting let down. I was used to getting told no. I was used to, my mom always said also, like, if you have a problem, I don't care if you have to go over it or under it or go through it, but you just keep going. So that's how it was. So I was walking up in there. You would have thought I was Oprah the way I walked up in there, didn't know nothing, but I always was confident because my whole thing is I just need to learn one thing. Every day I challenge myself, even from a 2-year-old. Like I talk to little kids and I like ask them questions. I just want to learn. I'm a sponge and I'm always to be a forever student. So that's definitely what led me to go there. Like, even though I didn't know anything about it, but again, it's just curious, But definitely the mindset shift. I know I see that today in our community, but just like you said, they're so easy and you'll share your whole entire life on Facebook and Instagram, but you don't want to have those real conversations. But it's time. Like I always tell people, like I can't blame my parents for not teaching me financial education or how to do this, but our kids can blame us because now it's just
It's
too
no
easy.
excuse.
It's free. Look, like podcasts like this, come on, YouTube, Instagram. Like there's no excuse why we cannot pass on this financial education to our kids. And another thing I always say is like, obviously real estate to me, I believe I wholeheartedly know that I could not be where I'm at today without real estate just because I was such at a disadvantage. I couldn't just go out and get a 6-figure job. I didn't have a transportation, but real estate is so easy to get into, and you could be anybody. You could have a felon, you could be bankrupt, you could still do it. So real estate definitely has changed my life. But even if you don't take real estate as a path, I always tell people bare minimum, just get good credit and add your kids on as authorized user.
Seriously.
Yes, getting them. My daughter just turned 18 December 14th. And then a couple days, like 12 days later, she literally got, I had put her on as an authorized user. Her credit score is already a 767. And she was able to get her own credit card just about that one play. So even if you don't want to do real estate, just giving your kids that advantage can definitely help them along the way.
No, absolutely. And we're going to definitely touch on that. But you said something else that stood out when you were telling your story at the beginning. When you went to that workshop, you didn't get much out of it at that point, but the 2 quotes.
Yes.
And I think that's another thing sometimes with people. We go into everything looking for an immediate result, not knowing sometimes that's just the stepping stone or the baby step to even get to the next level, because it was that shift mentally that was like, okay, I can do something different to change my circumstance. Then you talked about mindset and just what your mother instilled into you. How important is mindset on any journey, whether it's wealth, whether it's just changing your circumstances, whether it's in relationship? How important is that mindset, and how do you continually work on that?
Absolutely. So it's the number one thing in any journey that you go on is always mindset. You can literally, another thing that I say is that if one human being was ever able to do it, I can do it too, right? I may have to train a little harder, right? Get taller, get smaller, whatever, but I can do it too because somebody else has. So that mindset right there is already shattering any belief. Because if one person did it, I can do it. But for sure, that's the mindset, because even like with real estate, credit, or any kind of business, there's always a way to do it. But if your mindset is so programmed to the instant gratification, or it doesn't work, let me get over it, it's not going to work, that you're going to just, that's how you're going to not be successful, when you could have just opened up one more door and that would have been your breakthrough, right? So that's all in your mind, but not give up to finish what you start, So definitely important. And the good thing about it is that's what you need a mentorship for. And even for me, I still seek mentorship, even where some people may look at me as a real big success, but you always need something stimulating, challenging your mind, and there's always something you can learn. Yeah, and that mindset stuff is something you just have to continuously get the mentorship for. Like you can learn to play for how to flip houses, how to do wholesale, but mindset is always something that's evolving and that you're always going to need coaching on. So that's why I'm a strong believer in that as well.
Now, there may be someone actually watching this podcast and they're like, I keep hearing people talk about mindset, but how do I condition it? Because mindset, really, it's your muscle working continuously over and over. Like what is it that one could do to prepare to keep their mindset sharp, or to even come out of the negative thinking that they may have had and move to a different set of thinking? How does one work on that?
Absolutely. So for sure, seeking other people that's done it already, especially if they're offering coaching and stuff like that. But the mindset is just like you said, breaking it down step by step. So what is the next important thing I need to do to get closer to my goal? So if you have to break it down a little bit into small obtainable steps, and that can help out a lot. But definitely just seeing, to me, that's why I do what I do, right? And share everything, because I feel like me showing what I'm doing is being motivational. And that's getting people, hopefully helping them to get their mind together to want to do it. But to be honest, you guys, it's just like that quote I heard, literally take 2 to 3 years of your life to live how most people don't. So not eating out, even 1 year, not eating out, not spending, not getting the Netflix subscription. Just 1 or 2 years, and I guarantee you your life will be much, much better. And then you would start to realize that what other people think. And I know that's a really big issue. I don't know why a lot of people focus on what other people think, right? And that's just really what it is. Once you stop caring what other people think, your life literally, the weight is off your shoulder. Your mindset will be so much better and powerful, because that stress is off, right? So that would be my advice for that.
No, all of those things make a big difference. I can remember being in Vegas, and I'm new out here. I didn't have television for 6.
Wow,
Now,
yeah.
one, I couldn't afford it, but two, it mitigated my distraction.
Yes,
You know
yes,
what I'm
yes.
saying? Because it's very easy to come home one day after having a bad day and like, you know what? Let me just watch an hour of television, and one turns into two,
Two.
two turns to four. Next thing you know, you done binge watched the whole series when I should have been reading a book on whether it's crypto or real estate or whatever the case may be. And so those distractions
Yes.
is the sacrifice that we have to make. And I understand sometimes people are like, well, I got to have a life.
Mhm.
I'd rather live forever,
Ever, yeah.
versus just enjoying just time in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. And then when I'm in my 40s and 50s, I have to figure it out. I'm still
Absolutely.
working into my 70s. And you know what I'm saying? And
That's
so
how it is now,
it
honestly.
really is.
It is now. So to be honest, like I have so many levels of my story, but I just be trying to stay on the right track. But I bought my first house at 23. I was 100% financially free at 27 and I retired. I owned my house free and clear. I was getting about 4,000 or 5,000 a month in cash flow. I think I owned about 7 or 8 houses then. And I retired, but a lot of us want to retire. We want to quit our jobs. I quit Real Lobster. But after 3 years, and even before that, like I was bored. There's only so many vacations. And then another thing, your friends, like I wasn't wealthy enough to bring my friends on with me. So they're still working. So they're not available to travel. So we always think like we just want to, live free and have so much fun. But once you do create financial freedom, you're going to go to work and make more money, right? Or try to do something else. But for me, I know that I want to retire, before I'm 40, right? And not even, I wouldn't say retire 100%, but just very minimum and picking and choosing where I have the freedom to walk away. And then now I can go out, travel the world, and now I can use the next 40, 50 years to live out, the rest of my life without having to worry about 401ks and Social Security. That's gonna be obsolete in a couple of years, honestly. So, and it's so many people I know, and I even hate to say it, even tenants of mine, 75 that's still working, and don't have nothing. So we definitely, while we're young, that's when we need to grind, right? Put in the work. This is when we need to be stacking and trying to delay the gratification, as long as possible. So I feel you on that. But yeah, I was one of those people that retired early, and I could have retired. I didn't have to go back. But when you're so young, your mind, and then me, just my mind, always writing ideas down, always thinking about something, I had to get back started. And then I realized, like, it's one thing to be successful yourself, right? That's what it is. But how can I make this last for 10 generations, right? That's another thing that we have. I would say I have, like, I didn't have the luxury to buy or own my house, and then I can go out and splurge on a new Gucci bag or something like that, because I have to pull back and bring my mother up, right? And in those generations. And then also I have to take care of my kids again, because I don't want to be like, I'm a millionaire, then my kids have to go and struggle with student loans and debts and stuff like that. So when you come from a background like myself, a minority background on government assistance, you have to delay gratification. You can't go out and buy the Lambo after you got 3 properties, you got $100,000 check. Now you got a Lambo, because we have to just go back and reach and do a little more. But at the end of the day, now 10 years later, I can do those things, right? And it was a very sacrifice I would do any day.
Oh, definitely. 10 years, you're a vet now in this space, and we're definitely going to touch on the real estate side. But I heard a story once. One year at your job, you made $12,000, and then you had a play, and one day you made 12,000.
Absolutely, yes.
And then just being able to reflect on that, I can imagine that was powerful for you.
A tear came to my eye, yes, because it was, a long time ago, obviously, but I found the old W-2. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, let me see if I actually made more in one day. It was like $100 more. But I was like, let me see if I've ever had a day that high. And I literally went from making $12,000 a year at a W-2 to making $12,000 in one day. Wow. So that's something new that I'm figuring out. Before, my claim to fame was I started off making $20,000 a year. Now I make $20,000 a month just off one business, the real estate. But now I'm like, hold on, I made more than I made in the whole year in one day. I definitely got to share that with the world and not share like, oh, I'm big. Because again, if you see me, you're going to see me out with regular clothes. I don't have the flashy stuff because I'm still grinding, right? But I do it. I put it out there for motivation because again, I know some people are just born in really bad situations. You're born, your credit score already used and all that stuff. But the best thing about credit, and I learned this from King Will, is it is repairable, right? So, and I'm not, it's not your fault that you were born into a bad situation or whatever, but it is your fault if you choose to stay that way, right? So again, I share my story because I know being where I was from and the rate that I was going, I should not be here today, right? Society had a path written out. As soon as you have your baby, you get on government assistance, right? Then they're going to kick the daddy out because he can't afford child support, so he can't move with you, or we going to cut off your health insurance. So then I'm going to work part-time, making $5-7 an hour. Then I only can afford a house in the hood. Then my kids can only go to these schools that don't have the proper funding. So yeah, it definitely was a trap, but I had to fight, break through it. And it was all a mindset shift. Right. I don't care how many doors got slammed in my face. Just keep getting up and keep going until you get to go,
What do you say to that single mother or single father? Because there are a lot of single fathers out there. And I don't think they get enough credit because it's a lot of single fathers who still get up and do what they have to do.
For sure.
And so to the single mother and single father out there who are like tough. Mm-hmm. And I have this thing where I say, everything is hard. Yeah. You just have to pick your hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard being poor. And it's hard going on the quest of being wealthy or creating a financial security blanket for your family. What do you say to that single parent who may be going through that mental or emotional roller coaster because their circumstances isn't where they want it?
Right. So I'll definitely say just keep at it. I know it's hard, but don't give up. Seek guidance if you have to. But just have in the back of your mind that while this is hard, right? This is a struggle for me. I want to give up every day. But the fact that you're doing that, your kids don't have to do that. And honestly, that's what keeps me going, right? I'm like, dang, I had to work 12 hours yesterday. Well, that's cool because now my daughter don't have to do that, right? My son don't. So always figuring out your why, right? Maybe it's your kids, whatever that could be. But that's what I would say. But it's possible. And I'm not going to lie, like when I did start, it was 2009. But I know that if I started now, it would be way easier because we didn't have, or at least I didn't know, social media and YouTube. And now anybody can be an entrepreneur. You can go get a car and rent it out, DoorDash or anything like that. So it's definitely easier now.
You can make money doing anything
now.
Really.
Yeah. So you just have to have that mindset and do it for the kids and know that you won't be the first, but you won't be the last, right? That's something I always say. Right. And a lot of this stuff, and I know because, and I, not to talk about people, and I don't know people directly that do this, just the stories that I hear, but I know there's a lot of bad seeds out there, and those are the people that kind of mess it up for everybody, what makes you feel like, oh, there aren't good people out there, but just weed through it, right? And that's what attracted me to you, because when people are, first of all, they have other businesses, so they're not counting on you, trying to hurry up and get a sale. But the fact when people sit out and take 2 and 3 hours to teach you something for free on YouTube, and you got probably hundreds of hours of training out there, those are the people that you should listen to. But those typically are the people with less than 20,000 followers, right? So our mindset is already going to the people with 100,000 or 1 million followers with the Lambo trucks and the private jets. And that's not saying that it's attainable, but it's definitely watered down because maybe they did the work 10 years ago and now they've just been living a life. So things have changed. So that's also a factor on yourself by you're looking at your perception of wealth, right? You're thinking that these private jets and stuff, and even though it could be wealth, but you gotta lease it out. Or other than that, it's a liability. If you're not leasing it out like Turo, it's a liability. So that's what it is. And something very powerful someone had asked me the other day was like, Ashley, like you have siblings, I'm sure you have coworkers, you have friends. Why are you the only one, in real estate? Like everybody's successful in their own route. And then it made me think, because I'm like, I don't know why people didn't do it. I told them everything, like, oh, the plumber ran off with my money. Let's go to his house, y'all. Come on, But I realized that it wasn't glamorous. You know what I'm saying? I literally got a check for $127,000 cash. My money, didn't owe nobody nothing. I literally went to work that same day and I was making more than my boss's boss's boss. But that's the level of humbleness I have. And not only that, the mindset is not the money. So when people see like, well, Ashley, all she do is work. She got 10 houses. Why she don't have a Lamborghini truck? Why she don't have a Mercedes? Why she don't have all this Louis? They're not realizing that, I'm building, right? I'm building now that my kids won't have to do this, but their perception of wealth is, I don't want to be like her. She just work all the time and she don't got nothing fancy. So that's another thing where it comes back to us. When you seek motivation, make sure you're seeking into people that actually are living the lifestyle you want to live, or at least that you see the progress. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look at up to those people. I love to see the new cars and the new rapes and all that stuff, but I'm not, depending on them to save me in my situation, especially if I'm way down here and they're way up here. So, just have an even balance. We all want to have the luxury stuff, but for sure, keeping up with the people that are low and the followers, and that's really giving you that free time as well as some paid time, that would be helpful.
No, it's powerful. And talking about money, you said something. It was a little stunt. You were stunting a little bit. You said you took your tax refund check, bought a property.
Yes.
So I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which you already know that. Real estate market is similar to Detroit. You could buy a house for $2,500 in Milwaukee. And so as I'm driving through the neighborhoods one day, this was probably a few months ago, how most people who live in that community look at it as disaster. I'm looking at opportunity.
Yep.
It's like, man, this house is abandoned. This is opportunity. And these are people who, I have a client who bought a house from a tenant. She invested $40,000. The tenants are paying combined about $1,200 in rent.
Wow.
They could have bought that house and their payment would have been $300. They've been living there for 20 years.
Yes.
We have to start learning the power of our dollar, learning financial structure, understanding credit, and all of these things. And so when you talked about you took your tax refund and bought your first property, right now, what's about to take place with the tax refunds, people are about to get the largest tax refunds they've ever had in their lifetime. And I would hope that they take heed to, what you're saying, what I go out there and preach, and really understand, that's your initial seed money. We all don't have a rich Uncle Phil from Beverly Hills.
Right.
We don't have the trust funds and all of those things. So with you sharing that story, I could only imagine you've seen a lot of people that were friends and family who've gotten the $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 tax refunds, and you've tried to put them on. What was the pushback that they gave?
It was always an excuse, and that's so true. That I was going to say when you said that. I've witnessed it for years now. Though, when they see me and they're like, "Oh my God," they realize how much money they blown. Now they see it, but I was multiple times, because I am a licensed real estate agent as well, that I tried to help people that I know, and there was always this excuse. Literally, I only closed one deal for a friend. Every other deal fell through, and it was all my car broke down right here. And then guess what? They went ahead and bought the car versus the property, and then their car still was gone 6 months later. And now it's 10 years later. The houses, I still see these houses that I was going to sell to them for $6,000, selling for $86,000 now, and it was just 7 years ago. So it's just, and like I said, I don't know if it's just the glamorous and it's our society of this instant gratification. But it's so funny when you said that. When I first started, I said, well, not when I first started, but once I got 3 or 4 doors, I started to get nervous. I might have to do something else, because this isn't going to work, because I was purchasing a house for $2,300 and somebody was paying me $800 a month. That lady stayed there for 7 years. She's still there to this day. And I'm like, so I thought that they're not going to pay me the $800. They're just going to buy their own houses, but they never did. I'm glad I stuck with it, because I was like, nobody can go pay me rent when they could just go buy the house, but they still do. And I just don't understand why. I feel like it's out of sight, out of mind. But mostly I feel like it's the perception, because if they do buy that house or don't spend that tax return, then they're not going to be able to have the latest flights, Gucci and the J's. And then what people think of them, they fell off. But I do know, some of the brokest people who never owned a property, who rent, who have to move all the time, they flyer than me though. They got a new hairstyle every week. They got all the bags and stuff. Now I'm over here with 32 properties today as I speak, and they still living better than me and never owned anything. So you have the money. It's just your priorities and what you're gonna do with it.
And it's perception.
And perception,
like you say, for sure. Sometimes if you don't show the glamour, people don't buy into that. And I really wish that people could really just kind of dig through that because first of all, most of it is mirage.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't own the cars. They just they rented the jet. Like I see, they have filters now that show you on jets and different things. So, and speaking to that, Ashley, let's talk about the importance of financial literacy. And I know you have several programs, you have your challenges, and like you've really kind of taken the bull by the horns, as they say, and went on this quest of educating people. I remember actually meeting you about almost probably 4 years ago. And you came up to me, you were sharing some of the things that we're doing, and just me watching your journey has been phenomenal. I'm extremely proud of you, and just seeing other people who look like me, Black, because it's not a lot of Blacks, it's not a lot of us that really are out here teaching. It's a lot of people who have services, but it's not a lot of people really teaching. Why was financial literacy so important to you to teach about finance?
Yeah, because I didn't have that unfair advantage, right? So and that's why even to this day, if somebody try to do something that's unfair to, like for me, like, hey, I can get you the house, don't worry about it. I want to go through it straight and narrow so that I can show people that it's possible. And that's why, so when I do any coaching that I do is like, listen, whatever the topic is, you are going to be able to execute when you leave. And I want to make it affordable. But what I know, and, obviously there's no knock against the government. Everybody has their own things. But while I love and support and appreciate our government, they don't know the best thing to do. They think they're just throwing money at the situation, right? And you can't do that. It has to be education. So even with my nonprofit and everything that I'm trying to do, it's an education factor in it. We're not just giving away money or housing or affordable. You have to learn as well, because that is what's going to make you be able to sustain when, things go south. Just like with COVID, if COVID haven't showed us anything, is that you need multiple streams of income, right? So having that financial knowledge and that confidence and education lets you be able to go out and do these things. So that is why it's so important to me. And then also, if you have the financial knowledge and education, you are literally a millionaire. It's really nothing stopping you. You can do whatever you want to do. What one goal that I set out for my kids, and what I feel like we all can do, it didn't really cost me anything. Just a couple years of living how most people won't. But I said, for my kids, I wanted to make sure I gave them 4 things on their 18th birthday that they can have by the time they're 21. So I wanted them to have a good credit, right? At least a 750 credit score with no blemishes. I wanted them to be able to graduate college with no debt. I want them to have an investment property and a vehicle. If I can deliver those 4 things to my kids, I would feel like I've done my job. But also, that's going to help them and let them see the importance that they have something and they're actually starting out at an advantage. So that's just the goal that I have for my kids. But I definitely feel like that will help a lot of people if we did those initiatives for our kids and help us bridge that gap with the lack of financial knowledge.
No, definitely. And I love that initiative. And you've talked a lot about credit.
Yes.
And of course, I'm
the
wrote
king
a book
of credit.
on Credit is King, the book.
Yes.
But how has credit changed just your trajectory of your goal?
Okay, so a real life example, and I'm gonna be the one with receipts. I think I'm gonna just change my name if nobody has it to Miss Receipts, right? Because I got them. So honestly, I'm a testament. So it took me 10 years to buy 10 properties from 2009 to 2019.
Just using your tax refund. Right?
Cash, tax refunds, savings. That's it. 2019, I met this young man right here and just opened my eyes to so many different things. So I started executing, right? You don't got to tell me twice. I execute. So Will was giving me the game. I soaked it up. And I was from August 2019 to August 2020, I bought 11 properties in just 1 year. So I really shouldn't have to say nothing else about why credit is important. Do you want to take 10 years to get 10 houses, or do you want to buy 11 houses in just 1 year? Wow. And then even after that, I didn't stop. So now I'm at 32 properties. So I've bought 22 properties in 28 months. And that's all by using credit, leveraging my credit. And it's just so powerful. So hopefully that's a real life example on why it's important. But you guys, it is because if you have credit, you don't have to have a dime. You don't have to have an emergency. I don't even have an emergency fund. And not telling you guys not to do that. So when I had a rental property and all the training that I did get or read in the books, they say you want to have at least $3,000 to $4,000 set aside to that property just in case the roof breaks or the furnace. So imagine I have 32 properties and I had to set aside, emergency, because things do happen. That would be like $90,000 I would have to just sit in the bank and don't let it work and make 0.5%. Well, I can just have a $90,000 credit card Furnace break, okay, swipe Home Depot, you know what I'm saying? And now I can take that 90,000 and let that work and make more money. So credit is definitely powerful. And again, it's repairable. So even if you are like in a bad situation, first of all, well, I'll ask you, since you are the king of credit, is there any situation that's not fixable?
So there's scenarios that can take
Longer, right?
But no, there's not, because I always tell people that time just has to be on your side. You have to be accepting the time. It may take you 4 years to fix your credit,
right?
But I tell people, what are you going to be doing over 4 years anyway?
Absolutely.
So no, there's never a time when credit can't be. And even if there is, there's still other strategies.
Right. So that's what I was going to say.
There's still other strategies.
That's what I was going to say. So by like, you just heard it from him. He said the only thing it is can take more time. So let's say you get with somebody from his team and to do your credit. And he said, okay, it's going to take 4 years. It's just really bad. Okay, no problem. Still do it though, because the 4 years is going to pass. But now you're going to look at, that's going to be plan B. You're still going to make sure you follow up and fix your credit. Now you're going to work with hard money, right? Or creative financing or seller financing, but you're still focusing on your credit, because as soon as Will gives you the green light, your credit fixed, whether it took 6 months or 6 years, now you about to get access to 250,000, right? Easy. So that 4 years would be worth it, because again, if you get 250 after you waited 4 years, that's 50,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? And that ain't money to just sleep on. So I know it's discouraging when you look at the time, like, oh my God, what 4 years, you can still get active now, right? You're not, but you're going to pay a premium, right? And as you should. So just like me, I'm a person that's been responsible with my credit once I learned the power of it. So why should you get the same rates as me? Because like I'm a hard money lender. So people come to me like, oh, your interest rates is high. Well, you got a 550 credit score, bro. Why? I got an 800. Why would your interest rate be the same as me when I took care of mine? So again, it's not impossible. You can still make moves in real estate or anything you want to do, being creative, but get your credit fixed so you can get access to this and literally change your life. It's so easy.
Yeah, and you mentioned, if it took 4 years, after 4 years, you have 50,000 a year. Here's what I tell people, and it came to me in the form of a story. I had a client who, actually a good friend of mine, that went through my program, and I helped him get about 200,000 and some change. Took about 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he was sharing this story with one of his aunts, because both of them she was attempting to get in real estate. Mm-hmm. He had already built like a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. Wow. And so at this family gathering they had, she was kind of bragging. Hey, I have about 300,000 in my 401k, my pension, whatever. And he said, how long did it take you to do that? He said, 45 years.
Wow.
Just think about that. It took her 45 years to save 300,000. And he said, Auntie, that's cute. But I have 245,000 and it took me 18 months.
Wow. And that's powerful. And another thing, when COVID hit, everybody lived through it, my 401k, the little one that I did have, because I only worked 4 years, for the bank, it literally dropped in half. It was like 40,000. It was only like 4 years. It literally was less than 20,000. It went back up now, but the thing, like, that was her year to retire, and she had this 300,000. She retired, and then it drops to 150. So yeah, we definitely, and that's how we're conditioned to believe that the government's going to take care of us, right? Do what we're supposed to do. But you guys have to have, COVID taught us, you got to have more than one egg in our basket.
Now, what do you say to those people who are like, oh, credit, that's just debt? I love having that convo, by the way, but I want to hear, because I know you probably get that pushback a lot.
Absolutely.
What do you say to people who are like, oh, that's just debt? I don't believe in debt.
Right. So honestly, I'm very debt averse. It really it hurts me to get into debt, because I was poor, right? And I feel like if you can't buy it in cash, don't buy it at all. That's what I was taught. Or I don't want nobody to be able to take away from me. But again, my portfolio when I was doing it all cash was about 800,000. Now I'm at over 2.6 million, right? Using debt. Not only that, my income just from the real estate, I was making about $8,000. Now I'm making 20 grand a month. So, but that's after servicing the debt, right? So I don't care if I have to pay if I make $1, right? If I use a credit card and I have to pay all my profit to the credit card, and I make $1 extra without using my money, that's a pro, right? Because it didn't come out of my pocket, right? So that's just what it is. Now, obviously, you want to be cautious to not over leverage, but just at a safe, using mentors and people like myself and Will, you'll be good. Because like I said, if you're making $1 out of something you didn't have and you didn't invest nothing, it's infinite return. Yeah. So just give me an extra $1, I'm good to go.
Yeah, and then here's the other part to that too. It's tax free.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Like if people really understood, like I can take a line of credit, go and buy a property so both of them are debt. But then I can refinance this property, pull cash out tax free.
Absolutely.
And the tenant pays the debt servicing on the credit line and the refinance. Mortgage.
Absolutely. That's why I invented my reverse flip strategy. That's exactly why. Even if you do decide to flip later, still do the refinance, because that is all tax free. And capital gains is one of the high, especially short-term capital gains. I think on average it's about 35 to 50%. Yeah. So when the flippers, that's why when I look at flipping, and it's nothing wrong with flipping, but every flipper eventually buy and hold rental, because cash flow helps you quit your job. The $100,000 you make on a flip is good. You be spending it, buying your Lambo, and then here come April when Uncle Sam like, hold on, you owe me 35%. Yeah, even just like with crypto as well.
We come in and buy the Lambo at a discount.
Absolutely, yeah, at a discount from the auction sale, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
No, it's powerful, and that's one of the things I love about just being in this space.
Yeah,
because it's really endless opportunities and really no excuse on why people shouldn't have something.
Right.
I'm not saying everybody goal and aspirations are to be millionaires and have multi-million-dollar portfolios, but it's really no reason we shouldn't have some.
Yeah, and you know what? We have to. I'm very nice to you all, because I try to help anybody. I don't care who it is. But at this point, I'm getting to the position where I have to be firmer. We don't have a choice but to be wealthy. We don't have to be rich. Like, you don't have to have multi-million dollars, but you cannot depend on the government. If you're sick, even right now, right? First of all, with just the climate of what's going on, people are forced to work or forced to take a vaccine. And, even if they choose to or not, just to be able to feed their kids. So that's why you have to be well off and have some kind of financial knowledge, just in case you decided not to do it. You're not having to decide, do I feed my kids or do I get this vaccine? Right. That's number one. Now, number two, the government insurance. This is a true story. I knew somebody. I never knew this. Everybody know that, governments give you insurance. But this person was really, really sick. And I guess she had maxed out what the government would pay. And they literally sent her home, even though she was not well and anything like that. So I was like, wow, that is the real testament why I have to start preaching. We have to at least be financially free enough to afford health insurance, because they're literally sending people home to die after you hit your limit. And then with life insurance. So again, these things can be done very, very cheaply, especially our Black men. You guys, our Black men are dying 17, 18, 20 years old. A policy on them, because they're strong, right? We're strong. That's who we are. So they're healthy. A policy on them is probably $10 to $15 a month, right? And like I said, Lord forbid something does happen, because we're just getting attacked back everywhere. The police, each other, everywhere we go, we're getting annihilated. But at the end of the day, if we put that $15, $20 on our kids and, in our family, life insurance on grandma, whoever, that if something does happen, knock on wood, obviously we don't want that. But now we don't have to do the GoFundMe. Now we don't have to sell fried fish dinners. Right. You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, we can make sure we put our relative in the ground nicely, but we can also use that capital to bring up the whole family. So now that this young man, while it's tragic enough, and I'm very passionate about that, it's tragic, but it happens every day anyway. So we have to be, even if it's just the $15 a month, let's put this on all our kids, because I don't want to go into talking about other people and other races who perceive that they're wealthy, but a lot of that is life insurance money. And another thing is they're not questioned, right? Grandma's 80 years old. We want to put a $2 million policy on her. They don't say, oh, has grandma smoked and all this stuff? No questions asked, but let another race do it. So again, it's not a level playing field, but at this point, there's just no excuse.
We just got to learn how to play the game.
We got to learn how to play the game differently.
And speaking even with medical, I had a good friend of mine who, and just talking about how now, even just knowing this basic information it's a necessity. It's no
Yes.
longer just, oh, I didn't know. No, you have to. His father was in hospital care and his medical benefits ran out. He was able to use his credit to pay his dad's hospice bill, and he was able to, survive much longer than
Right.
what they initially told him because they would have sent him home.
They would have to die. Yeah. Yeah.
Like think about like how powerful credit is, and just understanding these extremely basic principles of finance. You don't need a
Yeah.
degree from
Right.
Harvard to understand credit.
Mhm.
Like, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. I can see the passion in you. And I think, well, I don't think, I know that's why you and I just resonate with each other so much, and we bounce off of each other so often because we get it. We're from the
Yeah.
community. We see the people, and then we've also have been a product of the product.
Mhm.
We've built multi-million-dollar real estate portfolios using the bank money.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But then being able to teach that and see other people be able to benefit from the teachings that we've been able to share, so it's powerful.
It's definitely powerful. That's a big thing for me. When I say it's one thing for me to go get 100,000 in credit, but I feel better saying I've helped 10 people get 100,000 in credit for sure. So definitely powerful. And really quick, I just want to say this, not saying that you have to pay a premium, but guys, you have to make an investment, even if it's a $10 class, a $20 class, because everything that's free is not necessarily is going to change your life, right? This is just to get your mind working. You will have to make some investments. So start making an investment in yourself, even if it's a smaller price point, right? And that's why I started doing lower ticket offering. But another thing is because we always assume that free is, but we don't appreciate free. We have to pay for it. I do giveaways, for every product that I do, I'll do at least 1 or 2 giveaways because I know it was a time I didn't have $200, right? And literally the people, and I'm not going to say everybody, but people don't even show up.
They don't.
And I'm giving away $100,000 worth of game, but it's only $197. But I'm giving you this free, you want a giveaway, and you won't even show up, But I got people that's paying, way more than that, and they're showing up every day, So we definitely have to start valuing education.
Yeah.
Valuing
I'm giving away my group coaching program to people. They hit me with the sob story and all of that, and they don't come to one class,
right?
So it's like I can't help you if you don't at least have some skin in the game.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So what's next for Ashley? I know you got a lot of things moving. You probably got another 30 properties on your radar for 2022. What's next for Ashley?
Yeah, so I definitely want to, the more successful I get, the more I want to give back, right? So right now I'm doing just a series of these workshops. They're very affordable on so many different topics, wholesaling, flipping, property management, rehab management. I partnered up with my attorneys and stuff like that. So we're going to get you together for a fairly cheap price. That way, I also am I'm almost finished with my nonprofit. So I have great programs coming out to help. I'm, starting off with single women to get housing and things like that. And other than that, just bringing you guys more trainings with real estate, trying to come out with a course and stuff, just to help you guys get it, And even if it's just that one property, literally that one property is what I did to get my daughter the 800 credit score. I added her on there, but that one property was funding her IRA, and that's how she's buying her investment property. That's how her college fund, right? So just one property. So you don't have to think of that massive, you don't have to have 32 properties or over 40. I know you will just shatter the records on me, but still, you don't have to do it if you're like, that's just too much for me. You know what I'm saying? Just one property can literally set your kids and your offspring or even your family up. So it's definitely, you have to do it, get with the right people, and you got it, but you got to do it. We can't, again, like I said, we can't blame our parents for not teaching us the information, but our kids can't blame us because you guys are getting it for free daily.
Is real estate investing or owning real estate a must?
It is definitely a must because it's completely life-changing. Anybody can do it, and they're not making any more land, right? They're not making any more land. What's here, so it's always going to be value in the land, but it's definitely a must.
Okay. All right, so as we wrap up, last question I always like to ask all my guests. What's that one thing you wish you would have known that you know now? Back, you can go back and talk to the 19-year-old Ash. What would you wish you had have known back?
Okay, so I am going to answer your question, but I'm going to throw a little curveball because that's what I do. So honestly, I'm glad that I didn't know because I retained so much. And I'm not saying that. So when stuff is given to you, like somebody say, hey, here go the property, all you pay me 10,000, it's already rented out. I'm losing the contractors run off with my money. To how do I find tenants? How do I pick up on a scam when a person writing their fake landlord and I'm talking to their cousin, So honestly, I'm glad, I'm so grateful that I didn't know nothing because it helped me learn so much more and retain it. And now I can teach it, right? So that's what I would say personally. But obviously, I wish I would have known how to leverage credit early on because when properties were the same properties that were $5,000, I'm spending $50,000 on right now. So if I could have had 32 back then, you know what I'm saying, I would have been really, triple, quadruple. So that for sure, just the financial education and knowledge on how I can leverage credit. But still grateful for that journey because I learned so much more. And the good thing is you never make a mistake, right? You just learn.
You just learn. They're all experiences.
Yeah, it's
They're all
experience. Absolutely.
So Ashley, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Love your story. I'm always bragging about you every time I get a chance to just talk about people, not even just the adversity part, but just your mindset. And it's always refreshing just to see people, who echo and champion and for lack of better words, carrying the torch.
Yes.
That I've been out there screaming for so many years. And so
sure.
I definitely appreciate you. Family, I appreciate you guys tuning in again. Make sure y'all go follow my sister. This queen has been trailblazing, not just in her hometown, but across the country. She's been on blogs like Bigger Pockets.
Absolutely.
She's been written about in national publications. She's been on the news, all these different things because her story is so powerful. She's been able to help different people from all walks of life. So make sure y'all go and support her. And also in the meantime, I need you to support this podcast. Continue to share, like, comment. Make sure y'all go pick up the books, Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You, as well as Credit is King. And as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you at the top. Peace.